Hello and welcome to the Healing Insight podcast, episode 44, with me, Sarah Hunt.
And me, Jez Hunt.
Hello, everybody. It's really lovely to be with you again. This is episode 44, and we thought we'd have a little look back over the year. Can't believe this is the last one of this year, 2022, that we're recording, Jay.
I know. We started back in, I just had to check on my notes. The first one went out on the 28th of February this year, 2022. And we're
Wow.
already on episode 44 in December. Wow.
Amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. And it seems that, one of the things that I've noticed as we've recorded these podcasts is that we've got recurring themes that they all kind of seem to interlink with each other.
Yeah.
Do you agree? And it's not been done intentionally, has it? It just seems to have worked like that. As we've been guided by our intuition as to the subjects that we need to talk about. But I think it's kind of important to maybe look at those underlying themes just to remind people of what's really important and as we move forward.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things that stood out most, there's lots of things that stand out, but sort of through recurring themes, I think the first thing that stands out is responsibility, taking responsibility for our own healing, for our own journey, for our own actions, and not so much putting, it can be very easy to blame other people or blame other people, say that things happen because of someone else, rather than taking responsibility for the bits that we have control over. So Mahatma Gandhi, I think it was, his famous quote, one of his quotes was, no one can hurt you unless you let them.
Yes, that's very true.
And so I think one of the key underlying things that has happened this year with and it's dipped in and out of various podcasts that we've done, sessions that we've done, has been, it's our responsibility, our life, our health, our everything, what we want to manifest. It's our responsibility. So I think for me, one of the most important underlying themes this year, well, all the time, but has come out this year with these podcasts, is that we need to take responsibility. We need to just, own it.
Step up and own it. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is as well, we can't change anybody else. The only person that we can change is ourselves. And that's another reason why we need to take responsibility, is because we need to go inward. We need to look at what it is that makes us feel uncomfortable, because it's something within us that we need to be addressing. And by taking responsibility, we're saying, yeah, okay, I'm going to look at my part in this, and see what I need to put in to change things, to make them different, to change it. And when you change yourself, it changes things for other people. So if you have made a change, you've forgiven somebody, you've put something into place, it then changes the way that people react and respond to you. It changes where you're going in life, but only you can make that change.
Yeah. If you act differently, other people will react differently. If you
And
act the
respond
same,
differently.
yeah. If you keep acting the same, you don't change anything about you. Then why should anyone change what they do? But we don't have to change other people.
No, because it's not our place to, in actual fact.
Well, it's not
their journey.
it's not, but we don't have to. And that's the joy of this is actually, it's very, very simple. All we need to do is focus on ourselves, being happy, being content, being loving, being kind, being heart-led. Because if we change ourselves, that changes our behaviours, it changes our thought patterns, it changes what we do, the actions that we take. the actions that we take that affect other people, that other people are interacting with, are different, they're more loving, more kind, the energy behind them is different, then the way they react or respond will be different. So then they will react differently to you, which means that they might well change something within themselves in the way they speak to other people, or act or interact with other people. So it's a ripple effect. And the
Yes,
beauty of this is
absolutely.
it's not about changing the world, it's about changing us. If I change me, that will have an impact on the world, a positive impact on the world.
Absolutely. And also when we change ourselves and we're kinder, we're more loving, um, we we can have a big impact on others around us,
Yeah.
and make a big change in their world. So we might not, the ripple effect does get a bit diluted as it's going out, but it still has an effect on everybody. But when we're kinder, more loving towards someone, that can make a big difference to their world, especially if they've got lots of stuff going on for themselves and they're perhaps struggling with whatever's going on. So we can have a huge impact on others around us just by doing the work on ourselves and shifting into a more heart-centered, more loving way of being.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually leads into the second key sort of underlying theme for me is heart centered versus head centered. You know,
Absolutely.
being in our heart as much as possible. Ideally, all the time. I mean, whether anyone ever reaches that ideal, I don't know. I certainly haven't. I mean, I still find myself in my head. I'm just much more aware of when it's happening and can stop myself and take that pause and respond differently and go into my heart center. And but again, underlying theme, we when we're in our heads, we're creating stuff that isn't necessarily there. We're reacting or responding to stuff that isn't necessarily real. We're making it real by our thoughts, but it's not, it doesn't have to be our reality because we can change it because it's just a thought. And yet we
Yeah,
can
but
spend,
thoughts can become actions, so we need to
yes,
be careful what we think.
yes, they can. Yes, they can. And so where I'm going with this is what I mean is if we go into our hearts, if we're in our heart center and we feel what is right, then the actions we take that will come from the thoughts that come from those feelings will be positive, loving, heart centered for the highest good of all.
Yeah,
When we're in our heads, so if I'm harboring a grudge against someone who wronged me, in air quotes, 20 years ago, and I'm putting out negative energy and I'm still going over how vile they are and how horrible they were to me and how it's affected my life and how rubbish my life is, that will lead to actions that won't help me move forwards. They're going to attract more of that negativity to me.
yes, to
And yet,
highlight to you that you need to deal with it.
yeah. So it's so what I mean. So yes, whatever we think leads to action. So if we want to have the positive thoughts, it's not about being in your head and trying to understand it. It's about going into your heart and trying to feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what I say to my cosmic heart students all the time. It's you've got to stay out of your head and in your heart and really feel things. Does this feel right? Does this feel like it's for the highest good? Is this what makes me happy? Is it what makes my heart sing? And we really need to learn to be more connected with our heart center,
Yeah,
because then we can recognize when we are in our hearts and when we are in our heads. Because when we're in our heads, we tend to overanalyze things, whereas when we're in our hearts, we can feel what's right. We can feel what's not right. We just know when things are correct,
yeah,
and we know what it is that we need to address. Whereas when we're in our heads, it's very easy then to be in that over analytical state, and it's his fault, it's her fault. Well, I was okay until they came into my life, instead of taking that step back and thinking, well, why have they come into my life? What is it that they're here to teach me? What am I here to teach them? What, therefore, do I need to address and change in my life? Um, But also, I think, it's really important as well to remember that we need to learn to love ourselves first and foremost.
Yeah.
First love yourself, fly.
Fly, as we did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fly. Because if you don't truly love yourself and accept yourself and accept that there are things you need to heal, there are things that you need to address, then you can't truly love anybody else. It's very easy to get into that blame game
Mm-hmm.
rather than acknowledging your part in things and accepting that it's part of your journey, it's part of your learning and development, it's part of your growth as a person, it's part of your healing journey. And it's part of your purpose to have this growth and to come to a greater understanding of yourself.
Yeah. And that again links with another underlying theme of boundaries. We've
Yeah.
mentioned, although we had an episode on boundaries, I think episode 11. We also have talked about boundaries in various episodes, and boundaries for yourself, as well as boundaries of how you allow others to interact with you.
Yes, absolutely. And putting boundaries in place is actually quite a loving thing to do. Um, and it's loving towards yourself because it's acknowledging to yourself what is acceptable to you and what isn't acceptable, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that may change as time goes on, as you move along your journey, your healing journey. And then that's just part of your growth and part of understanding things on a different level and moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, boundaries they're not something that you necessarily set once and then never change, and they're right for you in that moment or for a period of time or in a particular situation. They
Yeah, absolutely. I would suggest as well that we set boundaries on a subconscious level too,
hmm,
but people don't always pick up on them. And sometimes we have to make them clear in the physical, but a lot of our boundaries are set on the subconscious and will change on the subconscious as well as we change and come to a greater understanding of ourselves.
yeah. So what was another key thing for you that stood out this year?
I think it's listening to your heart.
Hmm.
That's so important to me. It's learning to listen to your heart so that you do what makes your heart sing. And when you listen to your heart and you work with your intuition, you step into flow, and the people that need to cross your path will cross your path. The people that can help you with whatever it is you're trying to achieve will touch base with you. Everything, the universe will work with you to bring everything into alignment to help you to be able to move forward and achieve what makes your heart sing. um but it's also listening to your heart to really feel what is for your highest good, and also remembering that we need to be self-serving first of all, so that we're doing everything that we're doing for the highest good. And that doesn't mean that we don't help other people, but we need to make sure that what we are doing when we're supporting other people is for our highest good as well as their highest good. So I kind of think um, it is about really listening to your heart and learning to trust yourself as well. And that's something that I've had issues with over the years because of things that have happened, and I've probably not listened to my intuition as much as I should have done. And it's been a real work in progress, but I'm much more comfortable with it. But trusting yourself, trusting what you're feeling, especially when you go into your heart, learning to trust what your heart's telling you, what your intuition is telling you, so that you do what's right for you.
Yeah. As you were talking, I got linked to a really nice visualization of flow versus life. um, and that is, if you imagine that when you're in flow, that life is like that along a river. So you're in a boat moving on the river, going downstream. So you're going with the flow of the water, and along the banks of the river are all the people you're meant to meet and connect with, and all the events that are meant to happen that you're meant to be aligned with, and it's all just along that river. And if we step into flow, we're traveling down that, and we're connecting with, like you said, we're connecting with the people we're meant to connect with, and the things that we're that the universe is laid out for us, or we can be involved with, are there for us, versus the humanness part of us that decides not to get on the river and go in the boat, but to pick out a machete and start hacking their way through the jungle and trying to find out what it is desperately. And you're putting all this effort into chop down the vines so you can take these 3 steps forwards. And
Yeah.
that's how it can be, and it is, as in my experience as well, it's as simple as, sometimes it's as simple as just doing a meditation, getting into your heart, and you step into flow. It's as simple as just step off the bank onto the boat and go, rather than hacking your way through life, trying to make sense of it all and trying to find the things that you desperately want, in air quotes, because they're
Yeah,
there for you.
absolutely. Yeah, it is all there, and the universe will provide it for you. But it's it comes back to trusting yourself, doesn't it? It's so important to learn to trust yourself, and taking that moment as well, whether it's in meditation or whether it's getting outside into nature, or whether it's just sitting down with a good book, or just saying, you know what, I need half an hour for me. I need to just be. I need to just be. And we can just be in so many different ways. We can do that by going out in nature and shutting off the chatter in the head and just soaking up the energies, noticing the flowers, noticing the trees, noticing the birds, all those kinds of things. We can do it by getting lost in a really good book. We can do it by getting lost in a really good film with a good story. We can do it by going into a meditation. It's whatever works for you, really. That's what's important. We can do it by, I mean, I do it by doing my paintings. I'm sure you
Yeah,
do as well.
yeah,
Sometimes I just think, you know what, I need to go and do a painting. I need to shut off and just be and do something creative that I don't have to think about. I just work from my heart with it. Um, and I think that's something that's very important. We all live such busy, stressful lives, and we need to slow down. We need to recognize that it's okay to take time out. It's okay to just be. So for me, that's another really important thing that we've kind of chatted about a bit in different podcasts, but it's so important. And when we take that time out, and I remember years ago when I first started meditating and I was in a very demanding sales job, um, there'd be days where I was just like stressed out right the way up to the top of my head kind of thing. And I would just think, you know what, I'm having half an hour for me. And I'd switch the phone off, switch the computer off, and I'd be working at home. And I've done it where I've sat in the car actually as well, parked up and sat in the car and just meditated. And I just would shut off and think, if my boss wants me, it's tough. He's going to have to wait for half an hour. And I would go and do that meditation and just shut off and be. And I then would find that I'd have calmed down, I'd be in a better space, and I was more productive
yeah,
because I'd got myself into a space that felt better. And I think, so often we find ourselves under pressure to keep doing things, and I've got to get on to the next thing, and I've got this great big long list of things that need doing, when actually what we need to do is prioritize time for ourselves as well. So it's about self-serving as well, so that we can be our best selves and our most productive selves as well, especially when we're in the work situation, or if we've got lots of things that we need to get done at home or for the family, or whatever it might be. So, just allowing yourself to have time to be is really important too.
yeah. And we touched on, as you just said, we did touch on it. We've touched on a number of, I call them obstacles. So things like overwhelm, fears. We talked about phobias. We talked about things that can stop us from doing the things we want to do. So things like meditation, walking in nature, all those mindfulness things that we can do help us to deal with things like overwhelm, because we talked about this quite a lot in the overwhelm session, and when episode 19 for those listeners that want to find it. And but it's the fact that all these things happen, that we then allow. We allow them to stop us doing the things we want to do. So having a list of 58 things you need to do, I'm a fan of lists. I don't mind having lists. I use lists. I did have a tendency of having an ongoing list of everything, but when you get to 3 months and something hasn't been done and it's still on the bottom of it's still on the list, I don't leave it 3 months now, but I just started questioning, well, does it even need to be there? If I can't do it in 3 months, it can't be that important. If other things come in as more important. So I tend to work on a much more in flow basis now. But what's interesting is that I don't get overwhelmed because I don't have a list of 58 things that I need to do tomorrow and it has to be done. I deal with the things that need to be done as they come up and I need to do them. It doesn't mean I don't, oh, that's come up. Yes, I need to do that. And it's okay. I'll schedule that in for that day. I'll do it then. But then it's dealt with.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about it until that day and it flags up on my, you need to do this today because you got to pay the car tax or the phone bill or whatever it might be. But it's a lot of overwhelm is something that we create for ourselves when we don't necessarily have to. So we might put something down that might be important to go on the list in that moment, but it's not important enough to deal with in that moment. But if it's still on there after a week, I would start questioning, well, does it even need to be on the list, really? For example.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to, us putting pressure on ourselves and feeling that we have to be everything and do everything and to everyone and everything when we don't.
No, and it comes to
We need to learn to prioritize.
Yeah, and episode 26, and this has come up for me with clients this week, asking for help.
Yeah.
We can get into that realm of feeling that we have to do everything. No, we don't. It's okay to ask for help. There's a strength to ask for help.
Yeah.
As long as you're asking in the right way for the right reasons.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes, it's just, and it's also, it's not just not being afraid to ask for help, but it's also recognizing your own limitations as well, and not pushing yourself so far that you stress yourself out. And that's something that I've had to learn over the last few years, because I know that I used to get really, really stressed when I was younger because I felt under pressure to achieve being in sales jobs. I was a single mum with 2 children that needed my attention. I had parents that needed support. We had parents that needed support. And Sarah came at the bottom of the pile. Whereas now I'm much more able to say no when it doesn't feel right for me to be involved in something or doing something. And I prioritize much better. I still get stressed from time to time. Who doesn't? But it's, I'm more able to deal with it and to recognize that, hold on a minute, step back. Why are you feeling like this? What is it you need to do? Do you need to prioritize? Do you need to say no? Do you need to deal with things in a different way to the way that you're dealing with them? What is really going on here? So yeah, there's we put pressure on ourselves so much.
Yeah.
That's not necessary.
I think another underlying theme that sort of came across to me is, we talked about going into our heart center and staying in our heart center and connecting and going into flow, and it's connecting to if we connect to our energy, if we are aware of our energy and where our energy is, so feelings, emotions as well, those sorts of things, then it's a barometer of what we need to look at. It's a barometer of where we are. If we're feeling happy and excited, no, it's Christmas coming up and I'm really excited to see the family and happy vibes, nice energy, then we're going to have a great time. If we're
Yeah.
going into Christmas with the Grinch sort of bar humbug,
Huge.
which, been there before, um, then Christmas won't necessarily, or that time with friends and family won't necessarily pan out in the way that, well, it'll pan out in the way we expect it to, because we will attract negativity and grumpiness
Yeah, that's
and that.
self-fulfilling prophecy.
So it's that barometer of I'm feeling low. So if I think we talked about scale. If you were to use a scale of say -10 to +10, where -10 is, almost don't want to get out of bed, leave me alone world, I'm not interested in communicating with anybody, to +10 being bouncing off the wall, completely hyper, then for me using that, and I do use that scale, if I'm anything less than a +3 or a +4, if I'm anything lower than that, I'm looking at, okay, what do I need to do to raise my vibration? What do I need to do? Why am I feeling, if I'm feeling a minus anything, it's like, oh, what's happened? What's going on? Why am I feeling like that? So questioning myself, and I use my feelings and my emotions and how I'm feeling in a moment as a barometer of where am I? What do I need to do? Do I need to let go of something? Do I need to journal? Do I need to go for a walk and release something? Do I need to cry? Do I need, whatever it might be. So using how we feel in this particular moment as a indicator, as a barometer of where we are and what we might need to look at or question, as you were sort of
Yeah.
saying earlier.
And that's, that's a skill that we all need to learn more and do more, tuning into our bodies. Our bodies are really clever. They can tell us so much about things that are going on within us, but we need to learn to tune back into them and listen to them and discover what it is that they're actually trying to tell us. Um, so that we can really get a feel of what's going on and what we need to address.
Yeah. We talked about that quite a bit in the dis-ease episode,
We did. Yeah.
which for
That was one of the
listeners,
first ones, wasn't it?
episode 2,
There you go.
back in March, 7th of March, 2022.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah. So, um, is there anything else that stands out? I think we've probably covered a lot of the things that I feel are really important, and you obviously do as well. Is there anything else that you can think of, Jane?
No, they're the things that stood out to me that I feel right to mention, that have come up in this. As I think the only other thing is that what I've noticed is that as we've gone through episodes, there are plenty of times when, like, Sarah, we don't plan these, we don't script them, we have no idea what, other than picking the topic title, we have no idea where the conversation's going.
It's done immediately before the record button is
Yes, pretty much. And what's interesting to me is the fact that all of it is like a little spider's network of threads between the different podcasts, where, which is why we've done this particular podcast in this way, where there are underlying themes, there are links between all of the topics that we've covered. It's not a single topic is just about that. Everything relates to and interacts with everything else at some level.
which just shows how everything is interlinked, which it
Yeah,
is. We're all interlinked, even if we don't realize it. And yeah, it's, I think it's really great the way that things have panned out and how it all interlinks, because it just gives that, well, shows it just shows people um how nothing is ever isolated. There's always things that are leading into it or coming out of it that are important for us to be aware of, to be able to move forward.
yeah, absolutely. So that
Wow.
brings us to a wrap on 2022 and the start of these podcasts, and who knows exactly where 2023 is going to go, other than we haven't run out of anything to talk about yet.
No,
So
we haven't yet. We seem to get a lot of guidance from our intuition and from our hearts, don't we, as to what we need to do. So I am sure that we will be busy recording more podcasts for 2023 to keep our to, to keep our listeners listening. So thank you to all of you that have listened to our podcasts. If you've enjoyed them, please share them for us. It does help with getting them out there to other people as well. We've got them on as many platforms as we can at the moment, but please feel free. Please feel free even to share the podcast with people that you feel may may be interested in listening. Put them out on your social media platforms for us. All of that kind of thing is, will be really helpful, and it will help so many other people as well, I'm sure, to listen to some of our discussions and to pick up on some of the things that we've suggested that people can do to help themselves.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And
so there we go.
let's wish everyone a very happy, prosperous, and in flow 2023.
Absolutely. Yes. Step into the flow as you move into 2023. Thank you to everyone.
Thanks very much.
So, for the last time this year, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.